Hello, it's me, and it's time to tackle the infamous 3x5x7 Puzzle Maestro's flagship puzzle. Anyway, when tackling a new puzzle, a novel puzzle, what I like to do first is I like to classify it, because when I do that, I can maybe figure out what strategies I can use. Now, being a 3x5x7, obviously it's a cuboid, but it's of the form n by n plus p by n plus p, which means p being, of course, any even number, it has the form of a floppy. And as such, it's probably going to have all the pitfalls and accolades therein. It shapeshifts in all directions, as any floppy will do, in all crazy and bizarre manners. Very entertaining and difficult puzzle, which hopefully I didn't accidentally scramble earlier than I anticipated. But it probably also has the infamous floppy parity, so I know to expect that. But there's an important difference between this and other floppies, and that's the fact that p, the two different p's, are two different even numbers. Thank you, yes. And sometimes you get a duck with it. So if I compare it to another floppy that's similar to it, the 3x7x7, I guess I could have used the 3x5x5 as well, is they have the same kind of attributes. You can turn, shapeshift, turn, and turn. The basic difference between this, when you have p's of different numbers, is that if you were to turn this 90 degrees here, that's where the shapeshifting and the bandaging starts. But if you turn it 90 degrees here, no such thing. And that's what most floppies will demonstrate, is you have a symmetry between these sides and you don't get shapeshifting until you have this. However, because p's are different numbers, even though they're even, you start shapeshifting the very second you make any 90-degree turn. Your shapeshifting started right over here, as opposed to over here, which means that it shares a very similar form as a brick. A brick does exactly the same thing, and if I look at the brick, which is the closest to this, I guess, which is the 3x5x6, because this is n by n plus p by n plus n, it has the form of a brick, and this has all the characteristics of a brick. But notice my very first move is a shapeshifting move. But this one does not shapeshift in all directions. I do 90 degrees here, and I'm basically stuck. I have to turn it like this. I have to do a 90-degree turn. But it is a shapeshifting over here. If I turn it over here, that's when the actual shape-shifting can begin, but I'm only shape-shifting in one direction. Been a while since I've used this one. Right over there. But I can't come up here, so it does not have the characteristics of a floppy like this does. This kind of has a hybrid characteristic. It behaves like a floppy, like the 3x3x7, but it actually starts the shape-shifting process like a brick. Now, because this displays all the characteristics of a floppy with the floppy parity, I'm still going to classify this as a floppy, but I'm going to classify this as a subset of a floppy. I'm going to classify this as an ultimate shapeshifter. And I say that because it not only shapeshifts the way floppies do and can be turned in all directions, you start shapeshifting with the very first move, unlike this, where you don't have to shapeshift it with the first move. This shapeshifts with any first move. So because of that, there's an extra step that's reached. It's solved just like this, doing a cubic strategy in order to get it to a point where I can free up all the layers, and then a cuboid strategy. Now, at the end of the cuboid strategy, this will be solved. But the end of the cuboid strategy with this, I then have to do 180-degree parity algorithms just like this. So the difference between an ultimate shape-shifting floppy and a normal floppy is that you have a step at the end where you have to turn things 180 degrees. The basic reason for that is that there's a point at which I can get all of these centers in, but I cannot get all these centers in until I return it to the cuboid form, because some of them will remain bandaged. And I'll show you what I mean. So that's how I'm going to basically approach this. To scramble this, I would start by doing 180-degree turns, as I usually do. Now, this puzzle does take some breaking in, and I've abused this puzzle, used it, and abused it, and I have done a good share of breaking it in. So I've made it as smooth as it is. So as you can see, it's really easy for me to turn this guy. Now, of course, all puzzles have a degree of temperament to it. So you've got to be careful with how you're turning it so that it doesn't snag. But with enough time and enough loving care and abuse, you can actually break it into a point where it moves pretty well. I want to get the checkerboard look out of it a little bit. Okay, to enhance the solve of this, I'm going to start doing my other shape-shifting turns. Turn it like this perhaps, and then we'll turn it like this. Now this kind of shape-shifting here is basically shape-shifting it much the way that you'd shape-shift this at first by still doing 90-degree turns. In other words, if this were any other floppy, this would not be leading me to shape-shifting. I wouldn't be shape-shifting as of yet. But the shape-shifting has started. Shape-shifting process has begun. Turn here, here, and now as I'm doing this, I'm going to start doing shape-shifting in the other plane. Just turn this here. I figured I'd show you all of this. Okay, now once I think I've done this enough, once I think I've thoroughly done a good degree of shape-shifting, I'm now going to do shape-shifting in all directions. So I'll move this up over here. Double turn this, so I'm bringing this out of its plane. And this is what separates it from a brick. This movement could not be done over here. Turn this over here, and now I'm going to go ahead and continue my 3x5x7 full shape-shifting scramble. As you can see, being an ultimate shapeshifter, well, yeah. I can now shapeshift in all directions. Now as I'm doing this, I'm actually causing bandaging to a point where I can only start moving this based upon my lowest common denominator, my lowest layer, which is 3. As a 3x5x7, this is now being bandaged hopelessly into a 3x3 form. So I'm going to continue doing that. We'll take it from there. Abracadabra. Okay, what do you think? So looks pretty scary. You know, with a puzzle like this, to those that aren't kind of in the know with these puzzles, if you were to introduce this to someone and you were to show someone who doesn't, you know, really know much about twisty puzzles that this is actually going to turn into a Rubik's Cube type puzzle, it would seem almost insurmountable. So, ultimate shape-shifting cuboid solve. Again, it's nothing new, so don't panic. First step is, like all floppy strategies, solve it for the lowest common denominator, which is a 3x3. So here's the yellow side. Now I'm going to define everything based upon the terminal side. So this is a red, yellow, and blue. This is going to be green, white and green, but we ignore these colors. So we only do the terminal ends to do a 3x3 solve. So let's go ahead and get our cross. Here's the yellow and green, so that's already in over here. Ta-da! And now we've got this one. This one just has to be turned up like so. This is yellow and orange, so this is in. Now we have this one, which is yellow and red. Turn this over here. Now this one, because it's odd layer in all directions, I've got the corners, or the centers rather, which are glued down to the core. So I can use this to calibrate it. All right, so we're pretty quickly and fairly easily getting across. What I'm looking for now is the yellow and purple. Shouldn't be hard to find because it pokes out. Here it is. Somehow it managed to hide from me. So we'll move this down, move this across, and then quickly move this up so I don't take out what I saw. Now, I'll tell you that in a puzzle like this, because the pieces are very oblong, there is the possibility of things snagging. My suggestion with this puzzle, if you were to get it, is don't force anything. The pieces are very robust. They should be okay. I've only heard of one situation where a piece actually broke, and I'm wondering how that occurred. But you don't want to speed cube this. You're getting this. It's a novelty item, first and foremost. It's unlike any other cuboid that you're going to get. But you got to be careful with it, and it's the shape shifting that will make it snag and cause issues like that. But in any case, here's our cross. Now I'm going to put in the edges. the corners rather. So this is the proper corner. This is the orange, yellow, and green, which lines up with here and here. We ignore everything here. That's going to come later. So here's blue and orange, which is going to be here. So turn this down. Now, even as nicely as this is broken in, and as smooth as this moves, in the fully shape-shifted form, I still got to be careful. I still have to make sure everything is lined up. Once it lines up, it moves very smooth, but it's got to be lined up. Turn, so this is in, and turn it up. All right, so that's pretty good. Red, yellow, and blue will find a nice home probably over here. See, so right now I'm just lining this up, make sure I can turn. Holding this is an issue too. You have to use two hands to hold this. Once you do that, you can kind of stabilize things. But there's no one-handed tricks with this one. Turn. So to get this, you are getting something, like I say, as a challenge, as a novelty, but treat it nice. And again, move this carefully. Turn this here, turn, so you can see things kind of stray a little bit, turn, and up we go. Okay, finally we're looking for the piece over here. Not sure I'm very satisfied with this scramble. It seems to be a little too easy over there, but we'll see. This isn't really the hard part. Turn. Turn, and up we go. Okay, so this is actually our first side. Now again, my goal for this is not to solve. My goal for this is to free up layers so I can move these down. I'm ultimately trying to kind of reduce this to its brick form so that I can reduce it and do my 3x3x2 solve, which is ultimately what all cuboids are solved into. So move this upside down. This is again beginner's method. So I assume knowledge of how to do a Rubik's Cube, how to do a 3x3. And now what I'm going to do is try to line this up. What belongs up here is all the whites. So that's not this, it's not this. So I'm going to move this to the proper center. Whoop, actually I had it at the proper center. All right, so this is green and red, so this has to flap down to here, fold down to here. So we're going to use the algorithm to do that in the beginner's method. U R UI RI UI FI U and then F. Okay. So that did indeed move this down over here. And then we keep going, doing exactly this. So this comes down to here. So again, you can see that it takes a lot of positioning of the hands. And because this moves so well, it can get snagged. So turn, 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 bang, zoom, pow, and splat. Okay, so now that's in here. Okay, this will come down to here. All right, we're getting there. Here's another purple one that has to be moved down to here. You know, I'll also say that in the full shape-shifted form, this is where you're the most careful with your motion, the most careful with your movement, because that's when things snag the most. Okay, so here's the middle layer. Middle layer is done. So now I'm getting the top. Here's my L formation. Hold the L formation so that it's to the left and to the back. And now, see if I can get my way through this. Almost at the home stretch. F, R, U, Ri, Ui, Fi. So if I can get a hold on it, I can move it pretty well. Anyway, here's our line, so once more. F, R, U, Ri, Ui, and finally Fi. Okay, so here's our cross. Now at this point, it's not so much necessary to put them all in, but I'm going to do that just because I like doing 3x3 solves. In any case, this is here, this is wrong, so what I'm going to do is try to set it right. Unless perhaps, yeah, okay. This is correct, this is correct. So when I'm in a situation like that, hold the correct ones to the front and to the right. Then I do a UI. Gotta find the best way to hold this monster, UI. And now I do the algorithm to permute these corners around, these edges around, which is R, U, Ri, U, R, 2U, Ri, and as this is not a super cuboid, it will predictably be in if I just go 2U. Okay, so good, good, and good. Now, corners. So corners, which ones are in, which ones are in right, which one's not. This one is not. This one is not. This one isn't, which means this one could be. Yep, actually this one is correct. So I'm going to permute the rest around. Get myself all lined up, see if I can get a handhold on it, and do my U, R, UI, Li, U, Ri, UI, and L. Do we like it? Not quite yet, so we're going to do it again. Mercifully, I think we're good. Yep, we're good. Now I just have to do my RIDIRDs to get all these down. That will be interesting. So, RI, DI, R, D, POW. Okay. So, believe it or not, this is the end of our 3x3 solve. So now the next step is we have to get these guys down. We're getting these guys down because we want to free up all the layers. Now we've already freed up this layer, and we freed up this layer. We freed up this layer, but of course not this. So to bring this down, as you recall, this is the Red Bull algorithm. Maybe we can get away with not doing it potentially, but I don't think so. So we're going to want to match these up. So it appears it's just these two. Just these two need to come down. Now it could have been more. These two could have been up. But in this particular case, it's just these two. So I'm going to set this up over here. Set this up over here. And now we're just going to Red Bull this down so that we can see where we're at. And that's going to be 2R, 2B, 2U, L, two up, RI, 2 up, R, 2 up, two F, R, two F, Li, 2B, and we can finish it up with 2R. Okay, now I'm going to go like turn and turn, and then move it in up over here. All right, that way I've decreased the number of red bulls that I'll have to do. Okay, so double turn this like so, and double turn it like thus. Okay, 2 sets of red bulls, 2R. Now, at long last, we have this in the flat version. We've actually reduced it down to here. Now, if this were this puzzle, we'd be back to our cuboid form. We'd be actually non-shapeshifted. Here, we're not. We've just converted it to this. We've actually converted it to a brick. Now, as you recall, a brick has the top and bottom sides that can only mix with each other, and everything else can, and the other sides can mix with all 4 of them. Well, that's what I converted this into. I have 2 sides that mix with each other, and then 4 sides here that mix with each other. So I'm going to move this as a brick now, which means that I'm going to use cuboid strategy in order to get it back to the cuboid form, and then do 180-degree forms moves over here.